The city of Paris stood still that night. Luxury cars lined the cobblestone streets outside Hôtel de Crillon, their headlights cutting through the rain like stage lights. And then she stepped out, Lauren Sanchez, draped in a sculpted ivory gown rumored to cost more than a small estate, every movement calculated, every glance deliberate. Cameras went off like fireworks as she turned toward the flashing lights. Reporters shouted questions about her rumored $50 million transformation. But Lauren only smiled, the kind of smile that hides more than it reveals. In that moment, it wasn't just another red carpet. It was a debut, a declaration. The once TV anchor the world thought they knew was gone. But to understand how she got here, to this Parisian fantasy, we have to go back. Years ago, Lauren was the glamorous face of Los Angeles news. Bright smile, sharp interviews, and yes, always too perfect for television. Her critics called her Hollywood's anchor, mocking her for caring too much about fashion, makeup, image. They said she'd never be taken seriously, so she did what every underestimated woman does. She transformed, quietly, strategically. She built her own production company, moved into aerial cinematography, started rubbing shoulders with executives, innovators, billionaires. One name kept appearing on that list: Jeff Bezos. At first, their connection was dismissed as rumor, a flirtation between two powerful people with too much ambition and not enough privacy. But insiders say the truth was far more complex. Lauren wasn't chasing fame anymore, she was chasing influence. And Bezos? He was fascinated by how effortlessly she commanded attention. So when whispers began about a private jet flight to Paris, Fashion Week, a dozen secret fittings and a small army of stylists flown in from Milan, the internet went wild. Some said she was prepping for a magazine cover. Others said she was about to launch something bigger, a global image reboot. Whatever it was, Paris wasn't just a trip, it was a statement. Because when Lauren walked through that hotel lobby in Paris, everything about her screamed transformation. The posture, the tone, the icy confidence of someone who knows they've been underestimated for too long. She wasn't there to be seen. She was there to be remembered. The woman who once read headlines was now writing her own. And as the night closed with whispers of secret designer deals and Bezos' name murmured in every corner of the room, one question lingered in the Paris air like perfume. Who exactly was Lauren Sanchez trying to impress? Paris woke up buzzing. By dawn, Lauren Sanchez's name was everywhere. Fashion blogs, gossip pages, finance columns, all chasing the same impossible rumor that behind her glittering Paris debut lay a $50 million secret deal. No one knew exactly what it was, but everyone wanted to. Whispers began in the marble halls of the Ritz, where Lauren was seen hosting a private brunch with 3 men in suits and a woman whose face the paparazzi never captured. The next morning, every trace of that meeting was gone, except a single leaked photo of Lauren's hand signing a document embossed with a gold crest, Maison Delacroix. For those unfamiliar, Delacroix isn't just a name. It's one of the oldest, most exclusive families in Parisian couture, known for dressing royalty, not billionaires. And according to insiders, what happened in that room wasn't a fashion deal. It was an exchange of power. Sources close to the situation claim that Lauren had negotiated a multi-million-dollar investment, not in a brand, but in herself. The deal would allegedly position her as a creative partner in a mysterious new luxury venture set to redefine elite fashion. But here's where things got messy. A leaked voice note, allegedly from someone inside Delacroix, painted a far more shocking picture. In the audio, a woman believed to be Lauren could be heard saying, "I don't want to join the table. I want to own the table." That one line set off an earthquake. Suddenly, Parisian society split in two, those who saw her as a visionary and those who called her a social climber with a billionaire safety net. Rumors spread that one top designer, whose name remains redacted in every report, stormed out of a meeting after, refusing to collaborate with her. one witness allegedly, overheard him mutter, "Fashion isn't for sale." But that's where he was wrong, because according to one business insider, Bezos had quietly funneled part of that $50 million through private channels, ensuring Lauren had full creative control of whatever project was brewing. It wasn't a makeover, one source said. It was a corporate takeover disguised as couture. And Paris? Paris didn't know how to handle it. She wasn't a designer. She wasn't a model. She wasn't even a celebrity in the traditional sense. She was something new. A billionaire's muse with the ambition of an empire. By nightfall, social media exploded with one haunting question. What exactly did Lauren Sanchez buy in Paris? And who did she have to betray to get it? Because behind the glitz, behind the gowns, and behind that perfect smile, the fashion world had just witnessed the birth of a new kind of power player. And the first shots of a silent war in couture had officially been fired. At first, Paris adored her, the American beauty who had turned the City of Lights into her personal runway. Lauren Sanchez was everywhere. Fashion Week cameras loved her, champagne parties welcomed her, and even the old money elites who once whispered new money behind her back suddenly couldn't look away. But in Paris, admiration never lasts forever. The downfall began quietly, with a single leaked email. Sent from a top executive inside a luxury fashion house, the email mocked Lauren's so-called fashion revolution, calling it a $50 million masquerade for attention. Within hours, the message was all over social media, screenshotted and reposted thousands of times. Suddenly, the same industry that had applauded her was turning its back. Tabloids started running stories about her obsession with image. Fashion insiders accused her of buying her seat at the couture table. Even a late-night Parisian talk show joked that Lauren's next runway collection would be Amazon Prime Couture, free delivery, same-day shade. And then came the moment that broke her. At a private dinner for designers at L'Avenue, Lauren arrived in a silk gown and diamond collar, ready to prove she still belonged. But as she entered the room, the chatter stopped. Eyewitnesses say several guests got up and left within minutes. One designer was overheard saying, "She's not fashion, she's finance." The next morning, paparazzi photos flooded the internet. Lauren leaving the Ritz, eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses, her hand trembling as she shielded her face from the flashes. Behind the glamour, something had cracked. According to one insider, Jeff Bezos had warned her this might happen. He'd told her, "They love you until you threaten their power." But Lauren hadn't listened. She believed she could charm her way through the industry like she did in media. But fashion has its own politics, and Paris doesn't forgive easily. To make things worse, a viral video surfaced days later, allegedly from one of her secret fittings. It showed a French designer walking out mid-session, muttering in frustration, "I don't design for amateurs." That clip spread like wildfire. Memes followed. Public opinion flipped overnight. What began as admiration had turned into ridicule. Still, Lauren didn't break publicly. No statements, no apologies, no tears, at least not in front of cameras. But those who saw her that week described a woman changed, quieter, colder, as if calculating her next move. Because Lauren Sanchez had one thing Paris underestimated: patience. They thought they'd humiliated her. They didn't realize she was about to give them a show that would make every scandal look small, and by the time they'd figure out what she was planning, it would be too late. No one expected her to come back. After the leaked emails, the viral videos, and weeks of humiliation, Paris assumed Lauren Sanchez had fled back to California to lick her wounds. But Lauren doesn't disappear. She plans. So when invitations started circulating for a mysterious private fashion experience at an undisclosed Paris mansion, few connected it to her. There was no logo, no brand, no press release, just a single line on each invitation. Evolution begins where approval ends. And then, one foggy evening, the fashion world found out who was behind it. As the gates opened and guests stepped inside the candlelit courtyard, The air turned electric. Cameras weren't allowed, but what happened that night still made headlines around the world. Lauren Sanchez walked onto the runway. Not as a guest, not as a muse, but as the creator of her own brand. The collection was unlike anything Paris had ever seen. Bold, haunting, and intensely personal. Each gown told a story. Black velvet symbolizing betrayal. Metallic silver representing armor. Silk tears stitched into the fabric, glimmering under soft light like liquid emotion. It wasn't just fashion. It was revenge art. Guests whispered in disbelief. Was this a comeback? A confession? A warning? But the whispers turned to gasps when, mid-show, a confrontation broke out backstage. According to an insider, one rival model stormed up to Lauren moments before the finale, accusing her of stealing her designs. The tension was thick enough to cut. Witnesses say Lauren didn't flinch. She simply looked her dead in the eye and said, "You can't steal something that's already mine." Security intervened, the show resumed, and when Lauren reappeared for the final walk, cloaked in gold and silver light, the entire room stood to applaud. Even the critics couldn't deny it. She had owned the night. By morning, social media exploded. Hashtags like Lady Sanchez Reborn and Edu, the 50 million deer runway, trended globally. Videos leaked from hidden attendees showed snippets of the show, and every frame looked like vengeance wrapped in couture. Fashion commentators called it a rebirth through scandal. Psychologists called it image warfare. But Lauren, she didn't call it anything. She let the silence speak because this wasn't just a show, it was a response. To every critic, every whisper, every door that had closed in her face, and for the first time, Paris wasn't laughing. They were watching, closely, because the woman they thought they'd humiliated had turned their cruelty into currency, and was now cashing it in, one breathtaking gown at a time. And somewhere in the back row, a familiar figure watched it all unfold with quiet pride. Jeff Bezos. He didn't clap. He just smiled, because he knew this was only phase one. The night of the runway changed everything. But what no one saw, what really shifted the balance of power, didn't happen under the lights. It happened quietly, behind closed doors, orchestrated by a man who almost never makes a move without a plan, Jeff Bezos. While the tabloids mocked Lauren's revenge show, Bezos didn't respond. He didn't defend her in interviews. He didn't post on social media. He didn't need to, because while the world was busy gossiping, Jeff was busy building. Within days of Lauren's runway, whispers began spreading through the Paris business circuit. A new fashion incubator had been registered under a discreet holding company. Its listed founder, Lauren Sanchez. But when journalists dug deeper, they discovered that nearly half of its $200 million seed capital came from Bezos's private investment fund. He hadn't bought her flowers. He'd bought her a legacy. One insider close to the situation said bluntly, "Jeff doesn't rescue people. He repositions them." And that's exactly what this was. A repositioning. The incubator's mission was simple but ruthless: to disrupt old luxury, to merge sustainability, technology, and high fashion, and to push traditional Parisian houses into panic mode. Because this wasn't just about Lauren making clothes. This was about her making history. Emails leaked days later showed a series of power meetings between Bezos's team and international investors. One email subject line read, "Operation Renaissance, the Sanchez Effect." Fashion insiders couldn't believe it. The same woman they'd ridiculed a month earlier was suddenly being treated as a visionary asset, a former assistant who'd worked for the couple revealed to a journalist that this had been their strategy all along, that Paris transformation wasn't vanity, she said. It was branding. They were testing how far perception could be engineered. Lauren, in other words, wasn't simply becoming fashionable, she was becoming inevitable. Meanwhile, top designers who had once mocked her now found their investors questioning their relevance. Reportedly, 2 luxury houses even lost key backers after Bezos's. Team began recruiting their best talent for Lauren's new incubator. Jeff's move had done more than protect her. It had shifted the power dynamic of Paris fashion overnight, but while he built her empire quietly, Lauren remained silent publicly. She didn't celebrate. She didn't retaliate. She simply vanished from the spotlight, letting curiosity ferment into obsession. Because the silence was part of the strategy. Every critic who had laughed now found themselves waiting for her next move, desperate for a glimpse of what she'd do next. Jeff had given her something even more valuable than money: control of her narrative. And in an industry obsessed with image that was priceless, they thought they were watching a love story. They didn't realize they were watching a corporate coup in heels. And as the whispers grew louder in Paris boardrooms, one thing became painfully clear. Lauren Sanchez wasn't just back. She was winning. For weeks, Lauren Sanchez's silence had become her armor. No interviews, no public appearances, no statements, just whispers, growing louder, darker, more curious by the day. Then, one morning, the silence shattered. A viral post hit X, formerly Twitter, from an anonymous account called a Couture leak. The post contained a 47-second audio clip that would shake Paris and the entire fashion world to its core. In the recording, a woman's voice, calm, emotional, unmistakably Lauren's, could be heard saying, "They think I changed for him, but I sold my image to survive this world." That one sentence broke the internet. Within hours, the clip had over 10 million views. Fans were divided. Was this Lauren admitting her transformation was calculated, a business decision rather than passion? Or was it the raw confession of a woman trapped inside her own success? Fashion insiders scrambled. PR teams went into overdrive, yet neither Lauren nor Bezos released a statement. But the damage had already begun. Media outlets dissected every breath in that audio. The Daily Mail claimed it was recorded at a private party weeks earlier, before the runway show. French tabloids suggested betrayal from within her inner circle. Some even accused a jealous stylist of leaking the file after being fired from her Paris team. The theories were endless, but what no one could ignore was how human Lauren suddenly seemed. Gone was the invincible billionaire's muse. In her place was a woman admitting that everything, the dresses, the branding, the transformation, came at a cost. The backlash was brutal. Critics accused her of hypocrisy. Supporters called her a survivor. One viral comment summed it up best. Maybe she didn't sell her soul. Maybe she just finally priced it right. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the Paris Fashion Council allegedly began reconsidering its stance on her brand's eligibility for official Fashion Week participation. Translation: her empire was now at risk, and still, silence. For nearly 2 weeks, Lauren disappeared completely. No paparazzi photos, no sightings, not even a rumor. Her social media went dark. Not deleted, just paused, like she was watching the world debate her existence. Then, just when everyone thought she'd vanished for good, something changed. A photograph surfaced. Taken outside a small Paris atelier, it showed a woman stepping out into the rain. Her hair darker, her face thinner, her wardrobe stripped down to minimal black. But the look in her eyes? Cold, unreadable, dangerous. The caption under the leaked photo simply read, "She's back." And she was. Because what the world didn't understand was that the leak hadn't broken Lauren Sanchez. It had completed her transformation. They thought they were witnessing a fall. They were witnessing the rebirth of control. And when she finally decided to return, no one would recognize her. And that was exactly the point. 2 months after the leaked audio scandal, Paris had moved on. Or so it thought. The city was gearing up for the Met Gala, the one night where reputation and reinvention collide under flashing lights. No one expected to see Lauren Sanchez again, especially after her empire's near collapse. But when the doors opened that night, the whispers began immediately. A black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the red carpet. The crowd hushed. The cameras turned, and out stepped Lauren Sanchez. Reborn. Gone were the golden curls and jeweled gowns. In their place, sleek jet-black hair, sculpted lines, and a gown so breathtakingly minimalist that it silenced the chaos. It wasn't loud, it wasn't begging for attention. It commanded it. Critics who once mocked her were now frozen, mouths slightly open, eyes wide. This wasn't the Lauren who tried to fit in with the Paris elite. This was the Lauren who had built something entirely outside of them. And for the first time since the scandal began, she smiled for the cameras. Not nervously, not politely, but with the unbothered calm of a woman who had already won. The next morning, Vogue Paris released a digital cover. The headline read, "The Woman Who Bought Her Own Destiny." Inside, the article detailed how Lauren's Paris incubator had quietly signed collaborations with 3 major couture houses, including one that had previously blacklisted her. Her brand's valuation? Over $180 million in its first fiscal quarter. She hadn't just survived the backlash, she'd profited from it. Fashion insiders began referring to it as the Sanchez method, the art of turning scandal into strategy. Her comeback was studied in PR classrooms. Industry analysts called her a self-made myth. But it was her Met Gala moment that sealed her legend. Witnesses say that inside the gala, when she entered the ballroom, the entire space shifted. Conversations paused. Designers who had once refused to dress her approached her table, not to apologize, but to negotiate. Even Anna Wintour was reportedly overheard saying, "She's rewritten the playbook." Lauren didn't need to clap back or explain herself. She embodied her redemption. Every scandal, every betrayal, every rumor, all of it had built the version of her standing there that night. And according to insiders, she's not done. In a final twist, reports surfaced weeks later that Lauren was preparing to launch a new Paris-based luxury group, one that would rival LVMH, the most powerful conglomerate in fashion. The name of her new venture? Elena House, a tribute to her late mother. The symbolism was impossible to miss, from scandal to empire, from gossip to god-tier status. When asked by a journalist what her journey had taught her, Lauren simply replied, "They called it vanity. I called it evolution." And just like that, the same world that once mocked her was now bowing down. Because Lauren Sanchez hadn't just transformed her look, she had redefined the very architecture of power in fashion. In the end, Paris didn't break her, it crowned her. Subscribe now and hit the bell to follow Lauren Sanchez's shocking rise. Scandals, power moves, and Parisian drama revealed.